All right, looks like we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is an astrology report that we're offering today. We're going to be looking at today, which is the 17th, up until the Leo full moon, which is going to be happening on January 28th, 2021. So we are looking primarily at the second quarter of this lunar cycle that started with a new moon in Capricorn. So this is primarily, like I said, the second quarter. The first quarter square is happening on the 20th, 2 degrees Aquarius sun, 2 degrees Taurus moon. But we are going to be looking at today, the 17th and the 18th and the 19th, because there is so much happening that the last astrology report I did that was the first quarter leading up to the 20th was so long and so packed full of stuff. And it's a good thing that I go live every morning with the intuitive to add to that because it's just so much. And of course, astrology, just like life, it's a dynamic process. It is not fixed. It is not set in stone. It is variable and malleable and changeable and has everything to do with the input that we give as a result of our choice and our free will. So these astrology charts here, they are plotting a map, right? They are points on a graph, right? They're just giving us the geometric pattern, and how we choose to unfold with that is really about our own resonance and our own choice. So I hope everybody is doing well. It's been quite the weekend. Our moon is currently in Pisces, and I don't know about you, but the dream state and sleep has been very challenging and very fitful. When we have the moon in I'm getting ahead of myself. When we have the moon in Pisces like this, you know, there are no boundaries anymore. And especially when it comes to our intuition, our psychic channel, there's a lot of potential for a very sensitive, subconscious experience, but it also really opens the door to pretty much everything and anything if we are not aware. You know, the Pisces realm, the 12th house, this is where the mystics swim and the psychotics drown. And it feels to me that everything as the cycle is ending, because Pisces is the end of the cycle, it is the culmination of all of the energy, all of the choices, all of the karma coming back around to then be encapsulated into the next seed point, which is Aries. So as our moon moves into Aries tomorrow, we're going to really feel kind of this renewal of the subjective experience when it comes to how we feel and what's going on the inside, the waters of our own experience. But yeah, the dream state is where you are in Pisces and the 12th house, and has been very seemingly very active. I mean, from my own personal experience, like I said, everything and anything is coming through right now. And sometimes you have to deal with the unresolved karma that is the 12th house and Pisces in order to prepare yourself for the next cycle. And so there may have just been a lot of stuff coming up in the dream state, in the astral state, that needs to be cleared away, that needs to be addressed very directly, but it's coming through the subconscious channels right now and in the dream state. So if you're having a hard time sleeping, if your dreams have been incredibly active, if you feel nightmares, that kind of stuff, it's not surprising right now where the moon is. And considering everything that's happening right now, there's also major cycles coming to an end as well. So I hope everybody is doing well. Just kind of checking in here and seeing how, checking in with the chat real quick. So let's get right into it. There's a lot going on here as we lead into the second quarter of this lunar cycle that did start, like I said, with the new moon in Capricorn, really giving us an opportunity for intention to be set with the moon cycle in terms of committing ourselves to a transcendent goal. And that does mean in the course of Capricorn that there is a structure that is collectively in place to support this process, but everything else goes away at this point, right? Entering the convent, entering the monastery, entering that institution that supports this process, because it's valued just as much as the goals of building a business or building an institution of some sort, or governments or whatever that Capricorn represents. There's also support and reverence and institutionalized structures that are there to support this process. But it does mean that everything else is given away at this point, that there is no other goal other than the transcendent goal that has to do with this new moon. So the first quarter square, like I said, is going to happen on the 20th. We'll talk about that in depth as we get to it. But we're going to have a full moon in Leo. And we're coming into Aquarius season now. The sun is going to move into Aquarius on the 19th. So we've had Jupiter, Saturn here. We have Mercury here. Pallas Athena is here, the goddess of wisdom and strategy. So all this energy kind of setting the tone. And then as the sun comes into Aquarius, this will be when it's fully activated. And this happens every year, of course, the sun coming into Aquarius. What does it really stand for? Is the energy that is pervasive within the structures we build, within the collective. It is the collective itself, and not just what we have built as a result of our shared experience and our collective values. It is the electricity that moves through all of life. It is the power that really sustains all of life and everything natural in this universe. And so it tends to be very revolutionary. It tends to be much more focused on the collective itself. It's no accident that Martin Luther King Jr. Day is designated right around the time that the sun comes into Aquarius. This is about the focus of what is the healthiest of collectives and what that is made of. And it's made of healthy individuals. And when the moon comes into Leo for this full moon, we are going to feel a really strong sense, I think, of renewal and a strong connection to our own sovereignty. But that also, at the same time as we are feeling that, the sun fully illuminating that for us, it will be imperative that we become very realistic about that there are people. There are actual people, human beings, living beings that are involved in this collective, and not idealistic screens that we project everything onto. We have to eventually, which is interesting for Aquarius, because there is this detachment there in this sense of idealism that starts out the Aquarian archetype. But as you move through the Aquarian archetype, there is a time where the reality and the natural essence of the living beings that are part of the collective absolutely must be recognized and realized. And this full moon that's coming is going to illuminate that very, very brightly, about that it's not about the ideals, it is about the actual human beings. And there will be I believe there will be a sense of renewal, and everything that we have been going through for a very long time to get to this point will be fully illuminated at this full moon, and we will see what it all has been for. But it's only going to come about with the realization that there are actual people involved in all of this, and not just screens, like I said, to project our idealism onto. And that's certainly been the challenge for, forever, but very recently as well, it's certainly been the challenge. So, the full moon, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be, there'll be things to release, of course, but I think it'll be a lot of releasing of emotion. It'll be a release in a way that's like finally be able to let go of all the pretense and all of the expectations and just be ourselves, there's going to be a massive collective release, I think, by the time the full moon comes around. I think that's going to be really wonderful. So in the meantime, let's talk about it. So today, the 17th, this is the chart for the 17th, and we're going to look right at it here. The moon, as you can see, has already moved past Neptune in Pisces, is going to square the nodes, the north node and south node, as you can see here, is in a sextile to Pluto, is going to sextile the sun today. And the big one as well is Jupiter is going to square Uranus now direct. Jupiter in Aquarius. So, like I said, with the moon meeting Neptune and the moon in Pisces in general, it certainly is just dissolving everything within us. And the boundaries are they're very watery, they're very thin. There's kind of no boundaries here, especially with the moon in Pisces. It also allows us to really compassionately connect with others in this situation. And that's why I think that many things may be coming out in the subconscious, in the dream realm, that has to be viewed and be acknowledged in order to just deal with that energy before, again, we come back into a moon in Aries, where all of that karma from the last cycle becomes, like I said, encapsulated into the seed point for the new system. And so if there has been a lot of stuff coming up for you, and there's been a lot of emotional upheaval, or your dream state has been very active and nightmarish, I can personally attest to that, and I can also say that there've been reports to me of similar things. It's okay. It's part of this cycle coming back around, and there's no getting away. You know, in the 12th house and the Pisces house in astrology, it's oftentimes considered the house of bondage, right? Because the reality is that you can't get away from your own karma, and if you wait until the end to really come to terms with it, you still will have to come to terms with it. And this is where people often get trapped. This is where the soul will get trapped into a cycle of reincarnation, and you bring the karma of your past lives, you bring ancestral karma with you into the next cycle. And so the moon in Pisces, it's just, we are each personally getting this experience right now. But Jupiter squaring Uranus, let's talk about this, because this is, again, where the challenge with being able to see into the future, being able to connect with, and with Jupiter especially, expand on this futuristic, idealistic, collective idea. And as much as Jupiter is, it's all about the optimism with Jupiter. It's all about the big picture. Jupiter isn't looking at the consequences. Jupiter doesn't really think about responsibility like Saturn does. Jupiter is always about the expansion into the belief system, is the defender of the values. It's the square here between Aquarius and Taurus has been something ongoing now for quite a little bit, just because of Uranus and now Mars in Taurus. You can see here is Black Moon Lilith in Taurus, and then you have all of the stuff in Aquarius now. The challenge here is being able to simultaneously expand into the future, into the new iterations of humanity, into the next phase, into the age of Aquarius, while at the same time having to actually live out the natural cycle unfolding. And this has been a real struggle, I feel like, for many people to learn how to make sense of this situation. And so today, with Jupiter specifically, again, it's all about the optimism, it's all about the expansion, it's all about the big picture, the truth and the collective belief systems and the collective, the religion, that's Jupiter in Sagittarius. That is about religion and philosophy and the bigger picture. And it's the fact that we are kind of birthing into a completely new version of reality. Like, we're evolving now past our own karma even, and all contracts are being fulfilled now and let go of. That is a big part of what's happening right now. So with Jupiter, there's a lot of optimism here about us as a species and as humanity being born out of the cosmic egg, so to speak, and being able to to come forward as a completely new mutation in some ways. The square here is it was Uranus now direct. It's like, well, we still have to, the awakening process is going to be triggered, right? That's Uranus, is that triggering of that awakening. It's often a psychological crisis in the birth chart, wherever you find Uranus. And Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. It's the ruling planet of Aquarius. And so as much as Jupiter is expanding on and wants to have this perspective here, the struggle here, again, is coming back around to where we are with the natural cycle unfolding. And part of that is acknowledging the chaos that absolutely must precede any movement into the future. And that's going to be very in our face come the 20th, when Mars and Uranus come together on the day of the first quarter square. So again, we'll go into that in more detail. So this is today, the 17th. So like I said many times before, there's no real resolving a square other than just leaning into it and finding the release point. It's not to say that where Jupiter is, we shouldn't be focused on that. It's kind of impossible. Jupiter is so bombastic and huge and optimistic, but we also have to realize that the trigger for the transformation is going to come through the natural unfoldment and the ability to embrace the chaos as part of the process. Okay, so that is today, the 17th. Now let's move through the next couple days as we get to the 20th here. So there we go. Alrighty, so let's see here. The moon is going to move into Aries. You can see right here that it's already in a conjunction with Chiron today, and that's going to be the big thing. And so now that the moon has come into Aries, we're going to feel this sense of renewal. We're certainly going to have flaring tempers, right? Hot emotions, those kinds of experiences, with Aries. It's coming back around. The cycle is starting to emerge again. All the potentiality that is within the seed point is now here. And so meeting with Chiron, we're emotionally going to be, again, coming back around and revisiting this urge for this really strong emotional urge to assert our individuation. And when it comes to Chiron, it is about that wounded essence. Where is our identity fixed? Right? Are we still identifying with the woundedness? Are we in a process of letting go of that so that we can heal ourselves? Are we attempting to heal other people as a way to bypass having to let go of that identity as a victim? All of those questions will be brought to the surface emotionally for us on the 18th as the moon comes and connects to Chiron. It's also going to be in a sextile to Saturn and Jupiter as well in Aquarius, and their different points in Aquarius. And so also too, because there is a sense of momentum in wanting to create something, right? We're really going to feel this urge to get somewhere, to move somewhere, to transform, to act on our own subjective experience. And it's going to be something that if we act on it, we can certainly influence, let's put it that way. We can influence where Jupiter and Saturn are in Aquarius, which has been, again, expanding upon and being very optimistic about where we are headed into the future. And Saturn also showing us where our responsibility and where some of the structure and form and restriction needs to be as well. So there is a sense that we can exist in two places at once, and the dual nature of us, because cardinal fire is about the actual electricity, and there needs to be polarity in order for there to even be electricity, right? There needs to be a negative and positive charge in the atoms that make up matter, and that is where electricity comes from, because the electrons move from atom to balance the charge. Nature is always about homeostasis and finding that balance. And so we can exist in two places at once within us because those polarities exist within us as well. And so there's a sense of living two separate lives, which is going to help us, again, be able to see the bigger picture of where we're headed. Okay. So like I said, this weekend with the moon in Pisces has really helped move this along and clearing up, all of these cycles. The thing about Saturn too, there's going to be a sense of kind of some seclusion, right? Temporary withdrawing from our usual activity, in order to get us primed to really fulfill a responsibility that has more to do with using our spiritual nature and our essence to help other people, right? It's demonstrating our responsibility right now is not necessarily to burst out of this egg. That's going to be happening on its own. And the responsibility I think that we're really feeling with Saturn in this process is much more about utilizing that recognition that we have, is utilizing that recognition of where we're headed and what it means to be part of a collective and the energy that moves through, utilizing that to assist other people. And we may need to take a step back from our usual routine in order to be able to fulfill that, right? We're going to have to take a step back from our usual essence to kind of get that going within us, right? And again, that'll really support that responsibility and that process with where Saturn is. So the 18th, it's just the moon moving through Aries, and we start to feel the potential building within us emotionally on a very subjective level. So as we move into the 19th, this is where it starts to get really spicy again. We have the moon still in Aries, getting into late Aries, and asteroid Vesta is going to go retrograde here. So you don't see that, but she's in Virgo, and so she's going to go retrograde. And the moon's going to make squares to the Capricorn, and so making a square to Venus, but then is also, again, going to sextile all of the air stuff. So Mercury in Aquarius, the North Node in Gemini as well. And this is when the sun comes into Aquarius as well, 0 degrees Aquarius. This is the ideal being brought into form. And so on the 19th is when we collectively start to move from the institutions and the goal of these institutions into the energy that is created as a result of what we have collectively brought into form, right? Because it's not just about what is brought into form, it is about what then binds us all as a result of what we can create together, the Aquarian age. So on the 19th, the sun comes into Aquarius, and that's when the ideal starts to really be brought to the surface within us, and we're going to express ourselves through this, and we're going to see this expressed in some way or another. And with the moon in late Aries, again, this is where things are going to get a lot more activated either within us and within our minds. And when the moon is in a square to Venus, still in Capricorn today, as much as we want to ritualize this bipolar relationship of positive and negative within us, we are really going to have to take stock of what it is in our relationships and what we value in our life that's really worth hanging on to, and what is necessary to let go of. And this is going to be a real challenge again, because there's so much potency with Aries and the moon in Aries. It's just going to be there's so much drive and there's so much passion there. And we're going to really want to get things going. And we have to take the opportunity here to, again, see what needs, what is worth hanging on to and what is worth getting rid of. You're on one hand in the very material world dealing with a culmination point of everything that a culture or a group has created in the past, and hanging on to what is worth hanging on to and letting go of what's letting go to, and then a very formless subconscious personal part of each of us that is ready to create something. So you're going to feel the tension with that on the 19th, when the sun comes into Aquarius. That again is just highlighting what it means to come into the age of Aquarius. So I don't know what necessarily is going to unfold or as a result of these aspects, but just be ready for things to really come to light and then also shift very drastically. And with the Venus in this point of Capricorn, again, we're going to have to take stock of what is worth holding on to and what is worth letting go of, and what do we need to let go of. And that is going to really challenge that part of us that's ready to move, ready to create. It's so potent and powerful and kind of lit up, So that's the 19th. So let's look at the 20th, the first quarter square. And this is just, you can't make this stuff up. I want to go right to the actual square, because I think it's important that we see here what it is, these Sabian symbols in particular. So let's go back here. Everything moves so much faster with this new program. Okay, so we're going to be looking at 2 degrees of both Taurus and 2 degrees of Aquarius, okay? So first of all, both of these degrees, and I talked about this before, both of these degrees have to do with a storm. 2 degrees Aquarius, an unexpected thunderstorm. It's the need to develop inner security to enable us to meet an unexpected crisis. This is where the sun will be. So for every ideal that comes into form, the Aquarian age, the opposition to that with 2 degrees is, well, nature can take away anything that we build. And so we have to be ready for nature's challenge. And, this really fits in with where Uranus and Mars are. And I'll get to that as well. Okay, an event for which we're not prepared for. We're going to be expressing ourselves through it. We'll be finding our fulfillment. Our personalities will be blossoming through this unexpected crisis. Now, first quarter square, what is that? That is a crisis in action. What are we going to do? So the sun is about doing, right? It is about the expression and the yang energy. Well, where's the moon? 2 degrees Taurus. An electrical storm. Again, it's the cosmic power able to transform all of the implications of natural existence, right? So the consciousness may be really disturbed, right, by this visitation, right, which is the lightning strike, the storm, but the substance of the individual can be very impacted and fertilized as a result of this as well. And this is where the moon will be. And remember, the moon loves to be in Taurus. This is a happy place for the moon. The moon is able to nestle into the soil, into the darkness, into the living earth herself, and be very held and secure here. So what are we going to do with this first quarter square, with these 2 elements, these fixed elements that have the same imagery attached to it? Are we going to be personally fertilized and activated by this natural progress, or this natural process, I should say, that lightning represents, right? I just talked about that. So lightning is natural electricity. It is the balance of charge of the air, the water, the ions in the air. And so the gas particles that make up our atmosphere, right? They're charged, positive and negative. And so the electrons move in order to balance the charge. And then we have a release of energy, right? It's a natural process. And so it might destroy everything, but in the process, we can be activated by it. What are we going to do? Are we going to feel activated, or are we going to express ourselves through this, something that we weren't prepared 4 as well. It's going to be wild. That's all I can say on the 20th. Now, what else is happening on the 20th? Well, we are also going to have 2 major transits that are happening exactly at the same time, okay? Right before this happens, like 15 minutes before this happens, Mercury is going to trine the North Node, 20 degrees, and Mars is going to meet Uranus at 7 degrees Taurus, the same time, 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? Both of these happening at the same time. Mercury, 20 degrees Aquarius, a white dove bearing a message, okay, in a trine to the North Node, which has made us, we have been obsessed with all of the information. I've talked about this many times, okay? So at the very least, though, Mercury at this, which rules Gemini, by the way, and is in Aquarius in an air sign, excuse me. So is very, very active and also very in its glory here. Mercury is in an air sign, so functions really well here. Okay, the white dove bearing a message is about it's the answer of spiritual agencies to thorough, sustained, and victorious individual efforts. So for all of the information that we have been consuming, that we have taken advantage of consuming, everything that has been available to us to take in and consider with this Gemini energy, Mercury now is coming around to trine this, right? A trine, it's very structural. It shows that something has been structurally created in this moment. It's a certification of individual worth and victory. Straight up mission accomplished, right? And it's mission accomplished with that direction that we have been headed for our soul's evolution. So that's 1. Number 2, Mars comes to meet Uranus at 7 degrees. The woman at the Sumerian woman at the well. Let's find it, because I think actually Mars comes into that degree on the 19th technically, and then actually meets Uranus exactly the next day. So it's the meeting of the traditional past and the creative spirit pointing to the future. So Jesus, as the Christ, came to replace the old tribal order and came with a new order based on universal love. And so the creative future descends first to that which has become chaos. So it's going to seem chaotic. Mars is going to be in this position. So it's going to activate it. The warrior energy, the superhero energy, going to activate Uranus, which is that psychological crisis that causes a transformation. And it's in this degree. An old order is never open to a new revelation until it has accepted disorder in the name of love. Okay? So there's going to be chaos, okay? And it's going to be quick, and it's going to be activated, and it's going to be with the military involved because we have Mars here. And it's going to show us that the new quality of being can't be revealed until it renders the old patterns obsolete. And so we have this, and then we have the first quarter square, which is the storm on this day. So just be prepared for a major overhaul that is going to be quick and very chaotic and is going to involve most likely the military and the armed forces when we're talking about Mars here. We're talking about the warrior class. But it's also going to talk about us too, that part of us as well that's going to meet this moment of psychological crisis that is going to stimulate a massive and trigger a massive awakening. And that's what Uranus does, okay? So this is an intense moment on the 20th, all right? And then the moon comes around and squares Saturn after all of this. And let's see here. There's so many notes. The moon, 4 degrees Taurus, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? It's the riches that come from linking the celestial and the earthly nature. It is about fulfilling our contract and our covenant. And we're going to want to really feel that. But again, that square to Saturn, it's our responsibility to be helping those and to be using our spiritual energies, whatever that means to you, in order to help those who can't help themselves in that moment. So we may personally be feeling very attuned and connected to and wanting to express ourselves to a certain extent, or at least feel very fully that we are at the end of the rainbow and to gather our pot of gold. But again, Saturn is way powerful here and is saying that our responsibility is somewhere else. So keep that in mind as well when we start going through whatever this is that we're going to go through, okay? So let's look at the themes now moving through this second quarter, because we're still in this same lunar cycle that started with this full moon this new moon in Capricorn, about the transcendent, commitment to a transcendent experience, because we're still here. This is just the first quarter square about what we're going to do. We have to get to the full moon as well. So let's see here. All right. Less notes. Okay, so the 21st, the moon is still in Taurus, so that means it's going to meet Uranus and Mars on the 21st, okay, as you can see here, and Black Moon Lilith as well. And so all that chaos, this is where it's really going to settle in emotionally to each of us. Like, it's going to be kind of a shock, I think, to a lot of people at first, whatever this breakout is, and then on the 21st is when it really settles in emotionally on a personal level. So just keep that in mind as well. And then we'll square Jupiter as well. And so again, it's Jupiter's expanding on this ideal, right, of the new Aquarian age, where we're headed, and very optimistic about it, but we still have to feel the reality of it. And so this, again, will provide that opportunity. And so it may be really uncomfortable for people. And there's a lot to be learned from these squares, always, especially these fixed squares of Aquarius and Taurus, fixed air, fixed earth. Ooh, boy, there's just a lot of they don't seem to really want to be very malleable with each other, okay? And you can see how bright these red lines are, because what's coming this week as well is that Neptune is going to exactly square the nodes as well. So this is the 21st. Let's look at the 22nd. All right. And now the moon is still in Taurus, right? It's going to be in Taurus all day and making connections to Venus in Capricorn, in Pluto in Capricorn. So as we get later and later into Taurus, and very much very comfortable with things in terms of the material reality, it's going to be well placed with Venus, especially Venus, but also Pluto in Capricorn, which is, still unraveling everything. So we can feel secure and safe in the natural process unfolding, and while the unraveling that Pluto represents is happening as well. And so when we get to the 23rd, we're going to have the moon now coming into Gemini. Also, Mars is now going to square Jupiter as well. So again, there's the fixed square. And are we going to be able to... The question here is that Jupiter is showing us all the optimistic aspects of the Aquarian age again. And Mars is giving us the courage. Do we have the courage to really create happiness in the darkness? Because it's not going to be all optimistic into the future for everybody. And there's going to be this darkness that has to be acknowledged and experienced, right? The chaos still has to be experienced, and this darkness still has to, this is a part of the feminine coming back, because it is the darkness and the space where something is created, and you can't just jump from one system to another without the you can't have the transformation without the destruction and the chaos and the emptiness in between. And Mars, at least, is going to give us a sense of courage in this moment. And it's also going to kind of ground us into, again, a little bit of reality check here. That is, we're leading up to the full moon, right? So after the 20th, or the big theme I feel like with this second quarter is the reality check about everything and about who we are, where we are with everything, and where we are authentically with everything. And nothing is right or wrong. We have to be realistic about it. So now with the moon coming into Gemini, it's going to meet the North Node, and we're going to start really thinking a lot of things, right? It's going to be a lot of curiosity, but also, and discovery, but also a lot of confusion, because nothing's going to seem simple. Nothing is going to necessarily, our emotions are not going to seem very simple. It's going to be the dialectic, oh, I thought this, but now this, what does that mean? But there's also curiosity here. But there will always be a balancing as well. Like for every, problem, reaction, solution is the Hegelian dialectic, thesis and antithesis always. That is the nature of Gemini as well. So as much as Jupiter wants to be optimistic about it, Mars is going to be like, well, we still have to go into the darkness. And do we have the courage? Are we going to allow ourselves the courage to find happiness in the darkness, as opposed to keep just focusing on the optimism of what's coming? Because we have to be realistic about that. Venus is going to also come into a sextile with Neptune, and Neptune has moved into a new degree now, 19 degrees. The table is set, right? And it's the idea that no matter what, everything will come to the table when it's time. And we have to trust that process as well. The table's already set. It's waiting for us. We just have to go through the process of getting there. And Venus in Capricorn, we're getting into the last decade now of Capricorn and of Pisces. So Venus is showing us that it's really about the collective harmonization that is really important here. And if we can find that within our relationships and what we value in life, then that is, and we can find that harmony, if we can participate in that without any ego necessarily, just being a piece of this unfolding pattern and harmonizing with it in our relationships, in the things we actually value, the things that we're sensitive to in life, then this will support Neptune in this degree that's just like, are you going to trust that the table is set here for everything? Once you got to get there though, right? We got to get there. And part of that is we all have to sing in harmony together if we want to create this pattern. And also the sun meets Saturn as well on the 23rd. These are the major transitions while the moon is in Gemini. So the moon or sun meets Saturn, the council of ancestors here coming together, and making a decision about who's next. The council of ancestors coming together and making a decision and deciding on who is the next leadership, basically. So things will start rolling again around this time, around the 23rd, okay, in terms of who and what is going to be happening. There's going to be chaos, though. There's going to be chaos in the meantime as a result, but there is structure here, and there is a sense of, like I said, with the sun, this is the fulfillment of who we are, expression of who we are is going to meet Saturn. And, a lot of times this is kind of frustrating because, we want to, when these two aspects come together, Saturn and the sun, it could seem like that our expression is being squashed or at least given some sort of boundary, and we have to work a little harder. So that's something to consider as well. That but at the same time, Saturn being the previous ruler of Aquarius, there's still a lot of power here in terms of the power of the collective itself. And I think that there's going to be not just a council of ancestors, but the ancestors of all of humanity coming forward and being, okay, this is the next iteration of leadership that's coming. But there will be a sense of chaos still. Okay, that we have to have some courage in order to get through. And it's going to still be kind of dark around this time. The 24th, as we move through here, the moon's still in Gemini, is going to meet the North Node. Again, there's going to be a lot more information that comes out at this time. We're going to have a lot of personal feels about it too on the 24th. The 25th is when the sun is in a sextile to Chiron. This is all just a play. We're all just playing our parts, right? And we can really heal ourselves from this role that we've been playing in terms of being a victim and stuff if we can acknowledge that a lot of this is a transpersonal experience, that is meant to release energy from the group. Okay, the moon will move into Cancer on the 25th, and so moving into her home sign. And so there'll really be a sense of being held, being supported, feeling safe emotionally. And I think this will allow us to really, if we see and we express ourselves collectively through the fact that this is all just a transpersonal experience in order to release energy from the situation, we can really heal some wounds here. The 26th is the moon, again, still in Cancer, and this is when the nodes square Neptune, 20 degrees, okay? The table is set for the meal. And the square here is about, again, this obsession we have here with the North Node about taking in information, having access to the whole range of information and ideas and communications. The square here is that despite all of this and our drive to get there, we have to trust that the table is set for us when we get there. And so this is really going to be there's going to still be a lot more misinformation. There's still going to be, I think, a really big push to control the narrative at this point. And this is going to be really important that we don't get pulled into too strongly with where the nodes are, because this is going to pull us away. Well, it's not going to pull us because we're not really in this opposition, but what it will do is, at least it's a mutable square, so things are malleable and changeable, but at the same time, they're malleable and changeable, so it's really easy to be deceived. It's really easy to be manipulated in terms of information, and Neptune is in a position now where if we can trust that we're all going to get to the table at the end. It's waiting for us. We don't have to, but it has to be at the right time. Whereas the node, especially the North Node, is just like, I need to get there and like pile all this food on my plate. And it's like, no, just dinner time is dinner time. All right. And we can all sit down together with who we're supposed to be with, and it's all waiting for us. Okay. There's no hurry necessarily. And I think that, again, the 26th, there's going to be another big, and this has been building. And so this is when it's going to be exact. And I think there's going to be another big push. Now, along with that, the sun is going to then square Uranus in 7 degrees of Aquarius and Taurus. Remember, this is where Jupiter was at square to Uranus, 7 degrees of Aquarius and Taurus. Okay, so the sun is also going to shine the light on us breaking out of the cosmic egg. Oh, we're being born into a new mutation of humanity, completely separated from all of the past karma. Okay, and we can't come out. We're still in this chaos period, okay? And that's, again, the square is going to show us that we still have to contend with that. And we have to let go of the obsolete patterns if we even want to break out of this new egg. But we are coming out of it. I mean, the sun there with Jupiter there and Saturn, it's definitely here, and we can see into the future. But again, with Uranus, this is where the awakening happens, is in the disruption of the physical material reality as well. The 27th is when the moon moves into Leo, and then the 28th is when we have the full moon. And not only do we have a full moon, 10 degrees of Aquarius and Leo, Venus is going to meet Pluto in Capricorn. And so again, this is when the refinement that Pluto has been systematically unraveling this whole time is going to be very palpable to us, and is going to be in our relationships. It's going to be in the material world that we value. And those aspects are also going to be on the chopping block, so to speak. It's Venus wants that nice cashmere sweater too. And when she comes to meet Pluto, and it's just like, well, I've been pulling this apart thread by thread this whole time. She's just like, oh, I don't like that at all. I'm going to do something about that. Maybe I'm going to put on a different sweater. It's hard to say exactly, but it's not going to be, again, it's not going to be easy. But this full moon is going to show us the need for a reality check here, because it's going to be this Pluto aspect is going to be so in our faces at that point. Actually, let's see, this might not even be, where are we at here? Yeah, because Pluto has now moved into the next degree, which is about being able to see the natural energies that are pervasive throughout all of life, right? And Pluto has rendered all of the things that we've culturally created, institutionally created, all the beautiful, refined things, that beautiful rug that has been just systematically destroyed. And now Pluto's in, well, I'm also going to, really test your ability to see really the natural occult energy that is pervasive through all life. And again, Venus meeting Pluto here is going to make it very, very palpable at this time, at this full moon. And the sun will also meet Jupiter at 10 degrees, as you can see here. So there will be the full moon, and then the sun will move off of that degree, and then it will be in the same degree. And so it'll be opposite of the moon in Leo, which is about our own sovereignty, our own expression, our passion, a sense of being exactly who we are. And it's only when we're exactly who we are that we can stop projecting onto other people as screens and see them for who they are, right? And I think there's going to be big revelations here on this day. Big revelations. We're not going to get them necessarily on the 20th. It's not until this time on the 28th that things are really going to come to light. And with Venus and Pluto meeting, it's going to be very palpable. It's going to be in our material reality, and it's going to be kind of uncomfortable at this point. But the thing is, the sun meeting Jupiter is so benefic. It's so fortunate. It's so expansive on this this degree of meeting people where they are, instead of projecting onto them our ideals. I think this is really when a lot of stuff's going to come out to light, and it's going to be it's going to be a turning point on the 28th, this full moon. It will require that we are very connected to our sovereign selves and realize that you have to come through a darkness to get to the dawn. And we're going to feel that really personally, but there's going to be a lot that comes out at this point around this full moon. I think this is where the real disclosure is going to come out about a lot of what's been happening. And we're going to, the 20th is going to shock enough people into a place where we're going to have to, as the second quarter gets to this point, is where the reality check starts to build and build and build. And it's not going to be comfortable or easy at all. But I'd say by the full moon, we're really going to see a lot. So that's going to do it for today. I have no idea what is going to be happening over the next week. Wow, it's almost been an hour. And, in terms of social media, I don't have access to my Facebook again for another week. So please do me a favor and share this video. I'm also... I didn't record it, so I'm not going to be able to put it on BitChute. Oh, man. So, yeah, it's only going to be on YouTube for now, so it'd be really helpful to share it as much as you can. If you can, that would be awesome. And please subscribe, definitely, so this information can get out to people, and hit the like button. That really helps the algorithm as well. Everything else you need is in the description box below in terms of reaching out. I mean, Facebook doesn't really help right this second, but you can still come and like the page for when it comes back, and I can post there. I still have access to Messenger. You can always email me, go to the website, get on the mailing list. That was a really good way to stay in touch, and you can always book a reading through the website, and that all is in the description box below. So I hope everybody is taking good care of themselves. Don't worry. Okay, don't worry. We're going to make it through this. It's going to be a crazy week. And by the time we get to this full moon, we are going to see what it all was for. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of shock in the next couple of days. And it's really important that you hold it down for the people who are not prepared for it. And if you're not prepared for it and you find yourself really shocked and kind of reeling from the chaos, just know that there is a dawn coming. That is what this full moon degree is about the dew, the early morning dew after a night of darkness, right? The promise of dawn coming forward is where the full moon will be. And that is how each of us are going to be feeling a sense of personal renewal at this full moon. Okay, so just keep in mind that as much as chaotic, and if you're caught off guard, and I think all of us will be on some level, just know that this full moon is really where we're going to feel a sense of personal renewal, and we'll start to actually see each other as human beings at this point, and have a realistic perspective on everything that's going on, including the people around us. So take care of yourselves. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for catching this on the replay, if that's what you're doing. And I will see you tomorrow on the Daily Medicine, provided that is a possibility. It'll be right here on YouTube. So help me spread it around. That would be really great. And I'll see you.